Okay, so it's 11:22. I'm just gonna go ahead and kickstart, seeing as I have 45 minutes, do my best to get you guys out at the hard stop of 12:05. Cool. So welcome everyone. My name is Marilou Canon, and if assuming you're in the right session, my talk is gonna be a high level, inflective, a retrospective on retrospectives. Cool. And let me hit my slide. So first and foremost, I want to thank the sponsors that helped to make all of this possible. So there's a great team, and behind a great team are great sponsors. So just wanted to quick shout out all the sponsors: Sequent, Pragmatic, ProdPad, and then the whole team. Ian, Elizabeth, all of y'all have done a great job on just onboarding everyone onto this new tool. All right, to kick these off, who am I outside of my title, name, Marilou Canon? So I am a quality engineer at the tech consulting firm Dialexa, and I have been there for 4 years. I recently celebrated my 4-year anniversary back in October. And in those 4 years, I've had a bunch of titles under my belt working on several different projects. So I've been allocated as a Scrum Master, a product owner, quality engineer, really any role that is a facilitator of extracting information. So that information could be business value, acceptance criteria, yeah. And honestly, feelings, how people are feeling in the development process in making this technology or this product. So retrospectives have been a solid tool that's served me well in these past 4 years in just getting honest feedback to help everyone be happy building a product the way that it needs to be built. And that's what this presentation is going to be about. So for those who are not familiar or those who are and just would like a refresher, what is a retrospective? So we have the dictionary definition. It's an adjective where it means looking back on or dealing with past events or situations. Pretty straightforward. For those who are living in the Scrum Agile world, the definition, the Playbook definition, is time where a team reflects on what happened in the iteration and identifies actions for improvement going forward. So in general, whether you're working with technology or some other product in another industry, in general, it's dedicated time to honestly check if you're going in the right direction and understand why things are going a specific way. So in this product camp conference, you are going to be learning a lot of things that have a lot of action items that you can just immediately instill into your product or into your workflow. But really, where's that health check on validating that you're going the right direction or what you're doing is working? That's where retrospectives come into play. So it's this magic golden honesty time where you can do these two things and just feel good that you are adding value with your actions. So these are all the definitions, and like all real world definitions, this is exactly how this goes, right? In theory. So retrospectives, in my experience in my 4 years, often go one of two ways. First, it is an hour where people just like playing the blame game. There's no accountability, and people are just ready and eager to only point out problems of why this didn't work because some other team didn't pull their end of the bargain, or this person's really bad at communicating. Yeah, it's gotten that pretty intense. I've been in some where it's just finger pointing. Also, the same people talk and dominate the conversation, which means that the same people don't talk because they don't feel they have that safe space to honestly express how they feel, because it's being dominated by the people that are probably making them feel a specific way. And nothing actionable is decided because you spend the entire allocated time, the entire hour, just blaming people just to get it out of your system, to rinse and repeat and just have the same blame game conversation at the end of the iteration. Another retrospective that you may experience is silent death, is how I classified it. It's very reminiscent of kind of a high school class where the teacher asks a question and it's met with that silence, right? Awkward silence that's the facilitator's trying to fill, but it's only met with more awkward silence because no one wants or feels comfortable saying an answer. You get the same generic responses, which are often whittled down into yes or no's or I'm fine. just nothing really substantial and with no meat on the bone to really start a discussion. And especially there's a lack of engagement, which kind of feeds into the awkward silence. And this is amplified with remote work as all of us transition into just doing things remotely due to COVID. So the rest of my presentation is breaking down how to execute a retrospective using this simple equation for success. So there are ways that you can break down a retrospective into pieces to ensure that you get a really successful and fruitful meaning that gives you actionable items to apply in your next iteration. So at a high level, the 5 steps that I'm going to walk through with real life examples are setting the stage, gathering data, generating insights, deciding what to do, and then wrapping it up with a conclusion. Pretty simple, right? If you're not familiar with it, it may seem overwhelming, all this information, but hopefully I am going to walk you through these things in a systematic way and give you tools that help you as a facilitator or whoever is facilitating the confidence that you are doing this correctly. Fun fact, all of these examples are remote work friendly. So let's kick this off. Setting the stage. Essentially, let's decompress. So the purpose of this part is to have everyone participating in your retrospective mentally reset from the hours of back-to-back conference calls they were on, maybe mentally reset from just the 2-hour demo they were all a part of, and they're just mentally exhausted from that sprint to the finish line to get the deployed demo or local demo working. It's just a way to exhale from whatever you brought into the retrospective meeting. I've also used this part of a retrospective to do like a little icebreaker, getting to know your team. At the very beginning of a project, your team might not know each other. So this is prime opportunity to just share a little bit about each other, because it all preps up with preparing everyone to be empathetic and open to seeing other teams' perspectives. You're automatically going to go into this meeting with a, not agenda, but just a strong thought of what you want to say to hopefully mitigate whatever wronged you in that sprint or things that you didn't like. But it's really important for this step to just have a baseline, to be ready to be empathetic and kind to your fellow human teammates. For this step, for all of these steps, I'm going with the mindset that you are doing a 1-hour retrospectives. And so I'm providing a time box so you can kind of see how you can facilitate that in what time for each part. So an example that I've used before is doing a set the stage warm up, which is who works here? How to, so you ask a small set of team members to send a picture of their workspace. So this is specifically tailor-made for a remote work environment. And I say small subset because this warm up you can use, if you have a big team, you can just do 2 at a time. So you're kind of set on retrospective warm ups for a couple sprints or a couple iterations. And so after you get that information, based on what the team knows about each other, have the team guess which team member works where. So the benefits of this is it's a different way, it's a different icebreaker of learning or validating what you know of your teammate or that specific person. And this format is really easy to repurpose with whose pet is this? Whose favorite food is this? So this is a real live example that I used a couple weeks ago of a coworker of mine on a project that we're working on, and he sent me this desk. And so this was really fun because a lot of people said, okay, I see a GitHub coaster, so they're a developer. There's someone always has this radiant glow and we could never figure it out. Oh, it's because you're backlit light. And people ultimately landed on wonderful James Feigl, our senior engineer, and this was his desk. So this is a really cool way to kind of just learn more about James and really learn that he made this desk himself. So it's kind of organic conversation to get to know your teammates in a different light a little bit easier. Another warm up that I've done is who said it. So this is during an iteration, you guys are going to be communicating with each other either via email, via Slack, conference calls, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, whatever communication needs that you use. So during an iteration, take note of what memorable quotes or actions or like weird movements that your team has done that have been positively received by the team. That's elicited an LOL moment, if you will. And so at the end of iteration, prepare a deck and have the team guess who said or did the thing, and give bonus points if they can recall the context. So the benefits of this is it helps the team remember what exactly happened in the past 2 weeks. A lot of your memory may be impacted in the last 2 days of the iteration that you completely just forget, like goldfish memory, what happened maybe 3 days ago. So this is a good way to say, oh yeah, Matt said this thing because everything that our deployments broke. Yeah, that happened. This also, depending on your team and how comfortable they are with each other, it socially incentivizes people to be more active because they want to be featured in the retrospective. So an example that I had is I had someone say inline CSS or you're not even trying. So this triggered a lot of developers and may trigger some of you, and I apologize for it. But this was a really fun one that stuck out to me, and everyone immediately said, yep, this was Matt. This was an engineer trying to bait us into thinking that this is a pattern that we should all use. And then the last one I want to go through is 2 truths and a lie. This is a pretty fun one. So again, can be used multiple times depending on how big your team is. It's where you ask a small subset of team members to send 2 truths and a lie. Important that whoever is facilitating this warm-up to not for the person to not say what the lie is, so the facilitator can be purposely left in the dark. Have the team guess the lie based on what they know about the team member, and then once everyone has come to a conclusion or no conclusion, the team member who provided that information reveals the lie. So again, this is a safe, fun way to spotlight team members. And what I've seen every time I've done this is the team is pleasantly surprised at what the lie is and what the truths are. So I'm putting myself out there as an example. This is what I used with my team last week. So my 3 items were, I've lived in 4 continents, I've competed in a CrossFit competition in place, and I'm allergic to cats. So what I loved about this is I was immediately flattered because everyone said, oh, Marilou, you exercise a lot and you're relatively fit and you eat healthy. Obviously, the CrossFit one is the truth. And you're allergic to cats. You love cats. You have 2 of them. They walk across your screen all the time. That's the lie. I'm actually heavily allergic to cats and I'm doing immunotherapy so I don't have to throw my cats away. And the lie is I've actually just lived in 3 continents. So it's a little humble brag there that I shared with my team. So if facilitation isn't your thing, like you're not comfortable doing it, or maybe your team knows everything about everyone and it's just a family affair, or maybe you're dealing with a new team that's still getting comfortable with each other, go ahead and utilize online games. Something that my team has frequently used are Jackbox games. If you haven't heard of it, it's a great, quick and easy tool to set up. You don't have to download anything, and it's just a quick and easy game you can jump in and jump out of just to kind of set the mood and alleviate whatever pressure people have brought on. So after you set the stage, part 2, gather the data, or just have everyone brain dump all their thoughts onto the virtual table or physical table if that's available to you, and just put all your feelings and thoughts on the table. So the purpose of this is to get all the facts before jumping into creating solutions. I know it's human nature to say, I didn't like this, let's try this. Let's take a second and just give each team member the opportunity to share their thoughts. So kind of feeding into that blame game where there's a small subset of people that are just going to overtake the conversation. Gathering the data is a time and space for people to anonymously put their thoughts down for everyone to see. Also, in the exercises, in the gathering data portion, it's a way to keep your thoughts organized. So people aren't jumping around with, I really like this, but I didn't like this, but I really liked when Sharon did this, but Eric, you could have done this better. Like, it's just a way to cleanly get people's thoughts in an organized manner. And this session is time boxed, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the format that you use. And this is purposely done because if you give anyone a platform, they're going to talk for as many times until you push them off the stage. So keeping this time box helps people focus on the top of mind issues, the things that they immediately remember, because those are the things that we want to talk about because they impacted them so greatly in that past iteration. So an example that I've done is, a very common example is the 4 L's retrospective. And the 4 L's is, what did the team like about this past sprint? What did they lack or not like? What did they learn? And what did they long for? So I'm pitching the idea of just doing 2 of the 4, so only focusing on what the team liked and lacked, because the learned and longed for organically has come up in discussions in just focusing on those 2 topics. So in this presentation, what you're going to do is have each team member write down an individual thought related to each column. So you would give this format to your team and say, hey, for the next 3 minutes, we're only going to think about things that we liked, right? Just to not cross-contaminate everyone's thoughts and just focus on what we liked. And then after that, move on to what you didn't like. It's kind of it's focusing on keeping things organized. And in this format, you're doing this anonymously. So it's a safe space for people to honestly say, hey, I didn't like that, or I love this. I love this when Megan did this. So this is a really neat platform to give people a chance to say what they liked and didn't like. Another format that I've used is the sailboat. So it's using the power of metaphors. So using a sailboat as the sailboat is the product or is the sprint. It's ways that we can organize our thoughts in kind of like a visual representation of what your sprint may have looked like. So here, the island is the goal. Do people even remember what the sprint goal was? Maybe that might be a problem. Or validation that everyone's on the same page. Rocks, what are the risks? Anchor, what slowed you down the past 2 weeks? And wind, what is helping you move forward? So you can either use wind or sun. I'm not a salesperson. Probably stick with wind. Sun's not going to help your boat move anywhere. But what is helping you move forward? So it's kind of organically breaking down what you liked, what you didn't like. And this is also thinking future. What are some risks that you see in this next sprint that you want to help mitigate sooner before it hurts the team? Again, time boxing things to 2 minutes to help teams focus on one item at a time will just help you out when you get into the discussion portion. And another one that's a different twist is a 1-word retro, which, as the title sounds, is give the team 2 minutes to think a 1 single word to describe their past iteration. So this is a bit challenging, but it really highlights if everyone feels that it was a total crap storm the 2 weeks, but their word is fairly positive, it's really good facilitation jumping point to say, hey, I know things felt bad, but take comfort that we all felt good, that we supported each other, we were fast in addressing the issues and the hot fixes that were needed, and cool, things aren't so bad. So once everyone puts their word in, going back to the facilitation piece, puts their word in either the physical or virtual hat, depending on what online tool you're using, have the facilitator or even team members just pick a word at random and start to discuss. So gathering data tips, make things interactive to help keep the team engaged. So speaking to that silent death type of retrospective, having people either write on physical sticky notes or interact with some online tool, it's key to have everyone on the team participate. Also, especially working in a virtual world, keep things visual. Like keep things as visual as possible with sticky notes or these remote tools. I've used Team Retro, Fun Retro, Mural, which is I just repurposed a design tool for my retrospective purposes, or even Google Slides if you're just looking for a really seamless point of entry that you can just share with everyone. It's just helpful because people can see kind of the general, like a bird's eye view of, okay, there's a lot of positive stuff going on. Maybe things weren't so bad, or, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a lot of red sticky notes. We need to talk about something. And also in gathering data, be mindful of anonymity. Especially if your team is just kind of figuring out their own cadence, they're not comfortable sharing honest thoughts with the team just yet, be sure that your platform is a space where it's not intimidating or that the fear of things being turned into a beating stick is there. Like keep this as safe as possible until you get into that fluid family type of feel where people can say what they feel and learn from it, opposed to carrying it with them through the next iteration. Part 3, you have all this data, now what? This is the fun part, and this is where you start generating insights and start discussion based on all that data you just regurgitated out on the virtual table. So the purpose of this is everyone is on the same team with the same goal in mind of delivering X, delivering this product. And you may have your thoughts of how things went, but it's really important to acknowledge what other people felt because same team, same mind. Maybe you didn't realize that something was happening that made someone else feel that way, but you guys are on the same team. We need to be aware of what's happening with everyone in order for everyone to feel and be successful. So this is also a time to collaboratively identify themes together. So again, it's mitigating the same person talking every single time. And with these themes that we identify together, we start driving more fruitful and productive conversations that are more organized. So this is where you start generating insights. This is 10 minutes. So grouping. So this is, again, is a real live example of what my team had grouped together, and I blocked out things for not to out my client, but just not to show any client sensitive data. But in grouping, this is where you have the team review the data dump and group things together. Avoid explaining context until after grouping is done. Again, I know the tendency for people to say, oh, continuing to work together and create. Oh, I meant this. Same mind, we should know what the context is together. If not, let's just group things and common themes to provide context later to really understand and provide that perspective. Okay, so you dumped, you grouped, now we talk about it. This is, apologize before, but this is the meat of it, deciding what to do or creating a mitigation plan. So the purpose of this discussion is to get to the outputs, which are action items. After you identify the themes, get the context, get the perspective, be like, oh, that's what you meant, or oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was the thing that was hurting you. Let's change that, right? So this is where we look at the themes and say, how do we want to change things that aren't working? How do we want to change things that we didn't like, that made people feel bad or limited or blocked people from getting their work done? On the same coin, how do we keep doing the things that are working? As a facilitator, I feel it's very important to get away from that blame game is, yes, let's talk about some problems so they don't happen again or they happen in less frequency. But it's also really important to say, hey, what's really working? How is the team working? Are they smiling? What's making people smile? What's making people look forward to joining on yet another conference call of getting business data? Like, let's keep doing that so we avoid burnout, right? As much as we talk about the bad, we definitely want to talk about the good. How often does your team hold retros? I'm going to answer this poll so it gets away from my screen. Okay, so in this mitigation plan or the discussion and generating these action items, this is the most critical part in learning and adapting, right? Learning, kind of when you walk away from a retro, these action items should inform you a way to operate in your iteration that propels you forward. So learning from your past so your future is less painful or your future is more exciting. So this is time box to 25 minutes. So this is where it's kind of combination with grouping. This is going to take the majority of your retrospective time because you want to, before you get to this point, you really want to get everything. So you acknowledge everything, and then you talk about these small subsets of things that will impact the team for the greater good. So this is again a snapshot of a retro that I had last week, and these were crossed off because we had accomplished them. So what makes action items successful is having clear success criteria. Be as specific as possible. I have been on a lot of retros where the action items are, let's communicate better. Let's be thoughtful about this. At the end of the day, can you say, did we communicate better? That's going to have such a drastically different answer from person to person. So possibly a better action item would be, okay, cool. Matt's going to take point on taking notes after every discovery meeting and posting them on Confluence. just so everyone has context. That is an actionable item where people can say, yes, we did this, it is done, our lives are for the better. And then in that example, it is critical to be specific, also assign action items to individual team members or team groups, depending on the flow of your team. So assigning these action items to people incentivizes them and puts accountability on the team actually following through on these action items that they generated, right? So we're saying we're going to do these things and our lives are going to be better. Cool. If no one's assigned to it, it's just going to turn into oh, I thought someone else was going to do it. 4 years, that is always how it goes. So it's very important to be specific and assign that item to a specific person. And at the end, make all these action items cool. How do we check that we're actually doing this? So you can either do it throughout your iteration, or you can evaluate at the beginning of the next retrospective to keep the team accountable. What I do is I have the action items from the previous iteration and say, hey, did we do these? Cool. If we didn't, cool. That will also fuel some of that data dumping in the previous parts, or before we get into the gathering data and grouping. Because if we didn't do the action items, it'd be like, yeah, we messed up. We forgot to do this thing. Let's put this on for sure and assign it to someone, or break it down into smaller tasks to be able to say, yes, we confidently did this, check mark, done. Fifth, very important, is wrapping it up. It's far more impactful to have a very intentful ending than it is to say, okay, cool, action item. All right, that's our time. Bye. There's no wrap on there's no bow on the present, right? It's not hurrah, we talked about a lot of stuff and this will be very helpful. This hour was very well spent. So the purpose of the wrap it up or the conclusion is to spend the last minutes of your retrospective, again, reviewing and assigning action items to just hammer in that accountability. It's like, hey, we just spent 15 minutes kind of discussing a lot of things. Okay, let's take some time to break out the 4 items that we are going to do and focus on. Cool. Also, importantly, it's important to thank the team for the discussion. We have a lot of meetings that say, cool, thanks for the information, bye. But you just ask your team to be honest and open. So it's very respectful to say, thank you for this discussion. This was really informative to not only me, the facilitator, but also your team. So thank you for sharing. It also incentivizes them to keep being open and honest in future retrospectives. It's also just a very nice thing to do, retrospective or not. Just be mindful of thanking people for their time. Less than 5 minutes or however much time is left in the retrospective. So the ending notes that I have are, feel free to switch up your formats every once in a while. So maybe you're doing Who Works Here for 8 weeks and you've just run out of pets, food, drinks, workstations. Switch it over. Maybe do a Jackbox game to just like reset and just be different. So it incentivizes people to like be present in your retrospectives because you have no idea what's going to happen. Preparation and facilitation is key. So a lot of, especially the warm-ups, require a lot of preparation. Take this retrospective time seriously, like you would in any other meeting. Be prepared, be very intentful in your questions, and facilitate as a serious thing. So encourage people to either laptops down or close all your tabs, close Slack, so you can be present in the moment. Just be very intentful so you can really elicit that honest feedback because everyone is paying attention. And lastly, successful retros are driven by honesty. If you're feeling after retrospectives as a facilitator or as a team that you're just not getting the action items that are helping, take a step back and recognize, is my team in a safe and trusting environment? If not, that's the thing that we need to work on. That is the one ultimate thing that we need to get to before we can even talk about action item plans or what happened, or getting that perspective. Spend an hour, do a happy hour, or do a Jackbox game for the full hour. I have done that, and that has worked wonders because you just get people in their honest, relaxed state, and you just recognize each other as human beings. we're all human beings and we're all just trying to do our best to satisfy a thing. So the sooner we get to that and see each other as humans opposed to numbers that are just trying to output a product, the more that we can just be honest and have fun. Cool. Well, if you have any questions, or would like more information from me, here's my contact information. I don't tweet, so it's pretty much email and LinkedIn. Feel free to contact me to either share. I know in the chat I've seen a couple of different retrospective ideas to share retrospectives. I'm always on the lookout for new and fun things to try, or just new and different things to try. Who knows if my team will like them, but they'll give me the feedback. Or if you have any other questions about retrospectives, I am all ears. So there's my information. And with that, that is all I have. Thank you for attending. All right, Ashley, so I know we have a couple minutes, so we have about 10, 15 minus 2, 12 minutes. Math. I guess I can scroll through these questions and address. Okay, so I'm just gonna read comments as I see them, starting from the very beginning, so like roughly 30 minutes ago. Interesting comment, but I don't know, but I find teams with more front-end devs go blame game, and when it's more of a data team, it's more likely to be silent death. What's y'all's experience? Absolutely. Front end is definitely, I've seen that before, where it's, I didn't have the tools that I needed, the backend wasn't sent correctly, or all of that. What's been interesting, and then the backend just saying, hey, I'm just doing my best with the services that I have, right? What's the conversations that have come from that is like, I didn't have what I needed, you didn't provide me this. That's more often than not, that has evolved into how can we adjust our process to give everyone that they need with the visibility that they need. So for a conversation with the front end, it would have been, I don't know what the data contract looks like. Okay, in the user story, let's have the back end user story, let's have a call out to sync out with the front end dev, pull up designs and say, hey, do you have everything that you need? Cool. We just made that a line item that was in every backend user story, and that worked out well. So the blame game was semi-mitigated. Granted, it did take some time, as with new things, to slowly get used to a new process. But as a facilitator or team lead, just encourage your team to trust this process that we're creating together, as it'll ultimately just serve us in the end. Ooh. Introverts, they're playing the silent blame game. So a fun thing with introverts, as I'm off put on teams with introverts because my coffee manicness slowly starts to spread, is Jackbox is a great way to see the personalities of introverts, because it's an online game that honestly requires zero talking. It's just you reacting to what's on screen and putting what you think is funny or funny or appropriate for that response. So if you're dealing with a team of introverts, definitely to establish like, hey, this is safe, I want your input. Jackbox has a lot of different games to elicit that feedback in a non-work focused way. Cool. Kahoot, Samantha, I've never heard of that. I am putting it on my sticky note to Google right after. That's exciting. That's a new thing I haven't heard of. Ooh, current theme song. Everyone's just gonna say Cardi B. I feel that's the anthem of 2020. Okay, Ian, cool. +1 for Jackbox. Among Us, I have thought about that. I have never played it, but I've seen enough memes that I'm interested. My son is obsessed with it. Really, if kids are into it, adults will definitely be into it. That's how that works, right? Pretty sus. Clay, you asked if I had a template for this one. I don't know what this one is, but I'm assuming these presentations are going to be shared afterwards. And really, the templates are what that slide is. It's just you time the different animations on what appears. So I believe it was 2 truths and a lie, who sits here, who said what, it's really low effort, low fidelity slides where you just hopefully get a company picture. If not, just ask your teammate that you're asking the questions to provide that, so you don't have to worry about that.
Marilou, I think the question from Clay was related to one of the templates that you had there for your retro, how you're formatting the different columns of questions.
Oh, okay. So, oh, that's a good call out. So all of those, let me see. Oh, I'm still sharing. Perfect. So anything that you saw with this, I was specifically taking a snapshot from Team Retro. So Team Retro is a great tool where you can customize how many columns you're going to show. It actually walks you through the retrospective steps so people don't jump ahead. So one section is, okay, you are just providing data. That is all you're allowing your users to do, and there's a grouping. So Team Retro and Fun Retro are of different themes. So they operate the same. One is just free, one isn't. And then I saw template for the boat retro. This, I straight up Googled retrospective boat and went to images, and then there's a lot of templates that you can just use. So for this retro, I used Mural for this. So I shared a link, had the boat as a shared image that people could put virtual sticky notes on. Ooh, one emoji retro would be good, Samantha. So actually in that one retro example, someone actually put just the strong arm muscle emoji in there. And that was fun to talk about. It's like you wanted to punch our servers because they crept out on us, like you're flexing because you learned something. Like, what does that mean? It was good. Okay, do y'all do sprint planning right after retro? I have one team that rolls right into it with a small break, and another then ends the sprint with a retro, and we don't pick up planning to do the next morning to release cognitive load. Oh, for sure. My experience has been demo retro planning. I've been on for the majority of my projects, and I have had one where they save planning for the end just because your brain is most probably dead going from demo to retro. That's a personal preference. If we're rolling right into demo or from demo into retro, that's where I put a lot of emphasis on setting the stage of let's decompress in a way like we can either sit in silence and I can just play smooth jazz in our Zoom call for 10 minutes, or we can play Jackbox, or we can do this fun thing of rock, paper, scissors is another warm up that I did when we were in person and I had a medal that was passed around, but just to physically get people moving and out of their chairs as they spend after retro in sprint planning. So rock, paper, scissors was also a great set the stage warm up to do. I've also done retros where we pass a beer around if it's later in the afternoon, if that was acceptable to the team lead. Okay, good call out. Sometimes if you split the days up, so if you do demo, retro, and then say you're planning the team, assuming that they just knocked everything out and their capacity's been reached and they've done all their stuff, they're kind of in that weird limbo of like, okay, what do I do? Okay. Ooh, can you lead a retro for Product Camp Dallas? Put me in, Coach Taylor. That'd be fun. I've done a retro for a project that I wasn't a part of, and it was just kind of freeing because I didn't know them. So it was really kind of like a double purpose. Like, I'm excited to know you because I don't. And I'm excited for you to teach me about yourself. Do a happy hour, help us do a retro. Retro, retro, I guess project retros and happy hour retros are different flavors. So I'd probably have to see what the vibe of the audience is first to figure out which one is better suited. Or we could just use a happy hour Jackbox. Okay, I have officially scrolled through all the comments and I have 3 minutes remaining. So if there are other questions or comments, concerns, general hypes, Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Thank you again very much for taking time out of your very busy day on a Friday, on Friday the 13th, no less, when I feel people would be in the bunkers waiting for the next shoe to drop of this crazy year. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you guys go to other awesome sessions that I know are lining up. I'm excited to go to my next one as well. I have to pull up my schedule to quickly join from that after I get some coffee. And that's all I have. Ooh, I'm always excited to meet fellow facilitators. It was IMO in all caps though. So that's definitely a vote of confidence. Yeah, retrospectives are definitely something to do knowing that you're gonna get better with time doing them. Like a fine wine, you're gonna get more confidence the longer you use it or go to it. Also, as retrospective facilitators, I know that's normally done in dialects that it's usually the quality engineer that facilitates those or takes that charge. If your team is open for it or you want to offer opportunities on safe public speaking areas, retrospectives are also a very safe space to kind of do some learning along the way. Cool. So with that, I'm going to be that person that's going to give you back 30 seconds back from this meeting. And again, thank you very much for taking the time to listen all about retrospectives. And I'm going to stop the broadcast.